On today's episode of Locked On Avalanche, is it ever too early to do a power ranking, Kyle? Never. Let's do it. Let's rank the Central. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. And make sure you're following us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel. Just hit subscribe and get notified when a new show goes live, and make sure you're subscribed to our subtext as well. Link to that's in the show notes below. And when you do, chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, get your opinion on everything Avalanche related, which we share on this very podcast. All right, sir. We're gonna get the doves are flying in the studio today. We're going to get a little bit later to why not have just like a fun segment of some classic NHL nicknames. Player nicknames, which who we've liked throughout the years, old, new, not Avalanche specific, but we'll get into that. The front office poll that we talked about that was on The Athletic, we asked the questions at the time and gave our ranking, and now the results for that are out. So we will show those to you. But where we're going to start is what we talked about in the very beginning, power ranking. We do, if you follow Locked On NHL, they do a power ranking all throughout the year. They kind of break it up in how they do it. Like they'll do it by division. They'll do it just 1 through 32. And why not have us do that? We can take part in that and get, whittle it down to just the Central. We can be selfish and just do the Central. Why not?
We are professionals.
Right. And it's all about us.
That's right.
So, yeah. So, is it too early for that? And I mean, preseason's not that far away. I think most rosters are set. So you're not going to get the big signings that are really going to sway the rankings one way or another. So why not do it? And this will kind of be our baseline, and we'll adjust throughout the season.
And honestly, if you go back and look at last year's standings and how the Central played out and the moves that were made, I think there has been a little bit of a power shift. And I think it's interesting when you look at, power shift by the top 4 of the Central, and we'll get into it, but I think it's a little bit interesting seeing how everything stacked up last year to where we're going into this year.
When you say power shift, I feel like the top teams are going to drop and no longer be the top teams. I don't necessarily feel that way, but I do feel that there is a shift. I don't say a power shift, but there is a shift, and we probably agree on who that is. But let's start right at the bottom with the 8 teams in the Central. I would assume we're in agreement with who's on the bottom for here.
Yes.
Okay. It's got to be Chicago.
Yeah, it's Chicago, and just because of the moves that were made and not made, but I don't feel like Chicago's going to be sitting here much longer.
No, when you draft someone like Connor Bedard, you don't want to be sitting there for year after year. You know what I mean? I know he's young, and I know he's got 20 years to go in this league, but you want to make them the most fruitful 20 years that can be. So yeah, but you're starting, like you're gonna go through this for this year, maybe next year, and then you just have to keep improving on that. And do I feel like? But the weird thing is, man, like I don't think they're gonna be that much improved from last year, which is like I don't know how Blackhawk fans feel, but I'm almost like, man, like. You want to be in like the competitive realm. I just don't think they are, which, okay, I guess some people will be like, yeah, but that's all right. Fine. And then, like I said, Bedard is young, so you have some time to work with this, but you don't want to be here 5 years from now still trying to figure this out. So it's okay that they're there right now, but I guess they're heading in the right direction, if you want to say.
And when we did the crossover with Locked On Blackhawks, Jack was talking about, like, this is just basically a feel it out year, and just hold on one more year, things will be better. And that's what you can expect with Chicago.
What do you got for 7?
My friend, this is where we're not going to agree anymore. This is the Utah.
Oh, wow. Are you wrong? Okay. All right. Go ahead.
It's nothing to the team and their construction. And I know you believe in them a little bit more than I do, but it's not there yet. And this is one that I could easily see them jumping up, be 4 or 5, just by how this team blends together. But honestly, if you're looking at the roster on paper, I don't feel like they made that big of a splash. It's just what they have, and that gritty bunch of former Coyotes to now a hockey club. I just don't see them being that incredible.
I have them at 5. So it's not like I have them, pushing for a playoff spot, but I think they'll be in the mix later in the season than they were last year, which is not saying much, but I thought they improved a lot last year, and this year I feel like man, I'm telling you, I think moving to Utah will play a role in that. They haven't been able to, unless they're on the road, they haven't been able to play in front of, screaming crowd that's over 4,000 people or 5,000 people, however much Mullet held, in a couple of years now. I think I do. I feel like that will just get the juices flowing for this team. And on top of that, they're a young, energetic, fun team. I love their head coach. I think he gets the best out of them. So I think they will be a very much improved team. They will, like we're saying with the Blackhawks, I think they will improve upon last year and just keep improving. And they will be, I just think they're going to tail off at the end of the year because they don't know how to play those games yet. They don't know how to play those games of deep in the season, and there's a lot on the line. They don't have that form yet, but I feel like Utah is going to be. They're in that realm of like they're no longer an easy out.
I say prove it.
Yeah, I would be okay with saying that, but I think they will show you something this year more than they have in the past couple of years.
Well, so that leads into my next pick because proving over the last couple of years, I have St. Louis sitting here.
At 6, right?
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like out of the Central, like Chicago is the basement, and I feel like St. Louis is heading that way.
I would say so. I mean, I had Chicago at 8. I would almost put the Blues at 7.
I thought about it.
Yeah, and then Minnesota at 6.
Yeah, I have Minnesota above St. Louis,
and then I have Utah at 5. So that's my 8 through 5. Yeah, I don't. The Blues just I don't feel are trending in the right direction. I mean, I think they have some good players, but from top to bottom, I think they don't really have it. I think it's going to be a disaster year for St. Louis, if you ask me.
Yeah, and St. Louis just is not improving, and I have Minnesota above them because they don't have the money to improve.
Yeah, and I think it's still impressive what they're doing, even not having that. They should be on the bottom of this division, but when you have teams like Chicago there, who's kind of occupying that space right now. But on top of that, I think they're doing the best that they can with what they have. Which is not bad. Which is not bad. And Seth talked about it. I think they're in that middle of the pack. They'll give you a good game. They'll have duds. They're just hovering in that mediocrity right now. So much of it is soaked up into that salary cap. And then next year, when they get beyond that, you might see them jump up a little bit more.
And I'm interested to see the top 4 for you because the top, like the bottom, was a little mix match. I'm interested to see who you have at 4.
Well, why don't we get our first break in? And then we come back, we'll do our top 4, and we'll get to that coaches poll results as well. So let's get our first break in, and we'll do all that right after this. First, we're going to hear from Game Time. It's an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier, and prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. So what do we love about the Game Time app? They have the last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. Flash deals, zone deals, all in pricing. When you toggle that feature on, the total is up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And you get your views from your seat with their lowest price guarantee, or they will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. And you can download the Game Time app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. So again, create the account and use the code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, so power ranking the Central Division. We got our top 4 left. You were wondering who I was going to have at 4. Well, this is going to be a battle, man. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any I think the last 4 here could like we were saying last year, the top 3 could go in any combination of 1, 2, 3. I think you've introduced a 4th team, and I think that 4th team is Nashville. I don't have them at 4. I have Winnipeg at 4.
As do I. I have Jets, Jets.
Wrong sport.
4. And I again, they're a great team, greatest goalie in the league right now.
Yeah.
It's hard to fight the top 3 right now with that roster.
Well, I really, I don't say Winnipeg at 4 and think that's like a lock, because I have Nashville. Everybody's high on Nashville. I get it, because what did they do? They have the shiny new toys.
Mm-hmm.
They have the new cars in the garage. And when that happens, before a second is even played, everybody wants to bring that team all the way up to the top without having seen anything. I want to see stuff first, because yes, they got the names. Do the names fit with the system? We don't know that yet. I mean, sure, it looks like it could, but crazier things have happened. Even if it doesn't work, as well, I shouldn't say if it doesn't work. If it's not like a good fit, the team is still talented enough where they're going to be a playoff team. It's just, where are they? Are they in the top 3, or are they grabbing one of those wild card spots? We'll see. But even with all that said, of not having played a second with each other, they're still a really good team on paper. And right now, that's what you have to rank. So I put them at 3.
Yeah, I got Winnipeg at 4 because, again, this is a power ranking, not a probable ranking.
Mm-hmm.
Just off roster alone and going into this year, Winnipeg at 4. And number 3 is going to be interesting.
Go for it. I told you I got Nashville at 3.
I don't. I have the Colorado Avalanche.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We know what the roster looks like, and you're looking up at the next 2 teams. You're at number 3. You gotta do a little bit of proving yourself, Colorado, and you're at number 3.
I won't say where I have Colorado yet, but as far as the regular season goes, Colorado's a good regular season team.
Absolutely.
We're not power ranking the what they're going to do in the playoffs yet. Playoffs, but
playoffs.
Can't win a game. But I think the team is built for a good regular season. Where I have them, though, you have Colorado at 3. Who do you have at 2?
Dallas.
Wow. So you're putting Nashville. You're that guy.
But
you're that guy I was just talking about. Yeah.
With an asterisk, because 1, 2, and 3, they are one injury away from Winnipeg jumping up to their spot. Because
Mhm.
if something happens in Nashville and that roster is decimated or it takes a while to get going, look at Colorado last year with that roster. It took forever to get that going, and they had to trade a lot of it out. If it doesn't work, if something doesn't work, if there's an injury in Dallas, they could drop right down to that 4 spot in a heartbeat because there are hungrier teams behind them. And this could flip-flop all year long, and this is going to be an interesting race to watch. But when it comes to goalie, defense, forwards, Nashville's got it in spades. But this is just projected. We don't know what it's going to play out, but you can't argue with what Nashville's putting together right now.
No, I think they look formidable for sure. And whatever I have for even these top 4, like we were saying, like I think it can go. Just gonna play musical chairs, I think.
Yep.
And it'd be really interesting to see who, what the final results are and how close this division is going to come. It's you would have to think this is coming down to the last week and who those matchups are, which I should have looked up your schedules. See like who's playing who in that last week, because that might really tell the tale.
Yeah.
For me, I think so. Obviously, I have Colorado and Dallas left. It's weird saying, I understand why people want to put Nashville at number 1 because they got better. Did they get better enough to be propped up to number 1? I think for a lot of people, sure. I'll wait and see on that. But like I said, I think the Avalanche are a really good regular season team. And do I feel like Dallas improved all that much? No, but that's not to say that they're not a good team as it is. Clearly they are if I have them 1 or 2. But I don't feel like they went out and really brought in some teams that like kind of separate them from the pack. So because of that, I am going to put them at number 2, and I will put the Avalanche at number 1. Say what you want about that right now, but I think the Avalanche are a good team. I think the Avalanche have do I think they've improved themselves? Maybe incrementally. Not so much, but and look what they did last year. A couple of missteps, but they were right there. And I don't feel like Dallas separated themselves. Nashville sure got better, but I can't put them there just based on that. I still have to see the games play out. But and like I said, like the Avalanche have shown they can win games in the regular season. So I have them at number 1, but it's not in any stretch of the imagination like they're going to be 8 points up on number 2 of Dallas. It's probably whoever wins this thing, I feel is just going to be a point up on or 2 at the most of whoever is second. So
and
easily could flip flop here.
And you could see how the unrest and the tightness of that top 4 reflected in that coaches poll that we're going to be talking about in a minute as well, because when it comes to separation, it's honestly it's going to be probably one of the more entertaining races that we've seen in quite some time when it comes to hockey playoff seeding, and it's going to be fun to watch. But I don't think Colorado has made that big of a move. Like Colorado and Dallas have been the same, and Nashville is leapfrogging when it comes to improving what your team looks like.
Yeah, if you're talking about who's improved the most, clearly that's Nashville. Dallas and Colorado have been at the top of this division, and I don't think they've done anything to lower their standing.
No,
they're kind of staying right where they need to be. But there's question marks with every team. Do the Avalanche get the defense that they're expecting? Do they get the goaltending that they need out and out of a tandem? If all that stuff goes right, which right now I'm feeling like fine. Like you have to give them the benefit out right now, let the games play out. Then yeah, they can definitely be at the top of this division. I feel so. Fire away in the comment section, please. I do have some subtext stuff. Here, let me get to that quickly because there was a lot of people. So Coy says Dallas, Colorado. He put Trashville at 3. He wrote out Trashville. Winnipeg, Utah. Put the mile down. You probably like that one. St. Louis and Chicago. So him and I agree 1 through 8. No. He has Dallas number 1. Duh. So just those 2 are flip flopped. So that's what he's got. Let's see. Vargar forgot St. Louis, so I don't know where he has St. Louis in here, but he has
you did it right.
Yeah, we're relegating St. Louis. He's got Dallas at top, Colorado. He's got Minnesota at 3,
Interesting.
Nashville at 4, Winnipeg at 5, and then Utah, Chicago. So I'm assuming St. Louis is somewhere towards the bottom there, but he's got Wild up in there. Yep.
And with all those injuries that we were talking about through 1 through 3, that could happen. Minnesota could, because they're scrappy. They've had to make this work for so long. They could jump up there.
Yeah. Zach has the Avs at 1, Predators at 2, Stars at 3, Jets at 4, Minnesota at 5, Utah 6, Blackhawks at 7. And he's got the Blues at 8.
Honestly, could happen. Could happen.
Yeah. And then finally, Joe has the Avs at 1, Dallas, Nashville, Winnipeg, Utah, Minnesota, St. Louis, Chicago. So Joe and I have the exact top 1 through 8 rankings. So Joe knows what's up.
Yeah, if you spell Chris backwards, it's Joe.
Joe's my middle name. No, it's not. All right, let's get a quick break in here, and then when we come back, we will show you the results from that office poll, and then get into some nicknames from yesteryear or even today. I don't know who you have, but you said you have a list there, so let's get into that coming up next. First, we're going to hear from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, which is always known as what, Mr. Sullivan?
The Nathan McKinnon trilogy.
That's right. eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's jump into the results from the Athletics poll, front office polling. If you were watching on YouTube, there they are. So they divided it up because you could vote, across the board. Clearly, I think most people went in and voted on their team. You could go vote on any team that you wanted, but they asked you what your favorite team was. The reason they did that was to divide it up between the general public and then the fan base. So going through those categories, when we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, however long it was roster building, cap management, draft and development, trading, free agency, and the overall vision. I think for the most part, the public and the fan base agreed, with the glaring one. If you're not watching on YouTube, if you are watching on YouTube, it jumped right out at you. If you're not watching on YouTube and listening audio, the draft and development, the public perception of the draft and development for the Colorado Avalanche is a B-. The fan base, a D+. So that one is just night and day between what general hockey fans think the Avalanche are doing, drafting and developing, where the fan base thinks completely the opposite end of this spectrum.
It's if you're asking the public, yeah, of course that would make sense because they drafted Gabe Landeskog, Mikko Rantanen, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. Like, that's incredible. I would do anything for my team to do that. But Avalanche fans are like, what have we done since Cale Makar? And that's where they're sitting. They're like, yeah, that's all great, but we're talking about the here and now. And that's where you're seeing a lot of when we get down to the confidence and it's more of a less confident, and it's starting to climb a little bit because of that. Like, yes, Cale Makar, that's great and wonderful, but it's been some time. Where is the next Cale Makar?
And it is what have you done for me lately in the perception of a fan base. And I think they're giving them credit for drafting those guys, but it's like, okay, recently we either haven't seen anybody come up and really take the reins, or you've traded them away
to Montreal.
Yeah. Or San Jose. So you haven't seen that. So I get it, but I think, and we've said with Chris McFarland, like he's only had, this was his second draft. So we haven't seen his players really come in and see what they can do. We might get a little bit of that this year. We don't know. We were talking about that on yesterday's episode about who could be the guys that break through or break out or step up. And you always look to rookies to maybe just be that guy that's the lightning in the bottle guy. Could it be someone like Callum Ritchie? Could it be Kovalenko? We don't know. We're still, Gulyayev is maybe a year away or 2 years away, but he looks promising. You drafted the number one goalie in the draft. So, but it all that stuff is good to talk about now, but they haven't played. So that's the developing part. So I want to say, like, you always trend towards the guys that haven't played, thinking that they will turn out okay, but we don't know. And if they don't, this grade stays right where it is. But I think it's just a combination of that. And after Cale Makar until 2 years ago, you've traded a lot of those guys. I get why you've made those deals, but it just, they haven't done anything for your franchise because they're not with you anymore.
Yeah, because you're looking at like Newhook. Sampo Ranta's not even a part of this team anymore. Like this,
I mean, they still own his rights, but he's not even in the country anymore. Yeah,
yeah. There's a lot of like gap, and the Avalanche fans are ready for the next big thing.
We'll see. We'll see if we get it. But I just thought that was in. That's why I bring this up, because that one is just, everything else is pretty even. Maybe like a half letter grade away between A's and B's. And overall, by the way, the Avalanche were 9th, which is the lowest they've been in a few years. There might be some cracks in the armor here with how people are feeling about what's going on. I think people want to see the Avalanche make another run. They want that, they need to really say, like, okay, the front office is doing well. Because if you don't do that stuff, then the confidence starts getting less among some of the fan base.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes. So that's finishing that up. There's results for that. All right, we wanted to get into, why not just talk about some fun nickname. Hockey is just synonymous with nicknames. Some are just a play on their last name, but some are more intricate and creative. And we kind of wanted to know some favorite nicknames of over the years in hockey. Some of the ones that everybody knows, or maybe some ones that you haven't really, or maybe you heard of, but haven't heard them in a while. So you have somewhat of a list. So what do you got?
I do. Yeah. I'm gonna start with my one and only Avalanche member.
Okay.
One of my favorite unsung heroes of the Colorado Avalanche, Peter Budaj, Ned Flanders.
Oh yeah, Mr. Ned Flanders. Why did he always have that on his goalie mask? Was there a reason for that?
Yes, he is because of his he's a squeaky clean guy, wonderful locker room guy, and he's a Christian as well. So the Ned Flanders thing just stuck to him.
Okay. I never really looked into why it was even there. I just thought it was like a goof. And he just always had it throughout the years. That's a good one. That's a good one. Who else you got?
I got one of my first names, because growing up watching hockey in Alabama, I only had the PlayStation games to really learn names. Nikolai Heavy Bulin, the Bulin Wall.
The Bulin Wall, yeah. See, stuff like that is like, that's the creative side of whoever came up with that. Stuff like that, I think, is why like hockey nicknames are, you can't beat them. That's a great one. I really like
it goes, and then right into Dominic Hasek, the Dominator.
The Dominator. Another good one. I have 2 goalie ones on my list. Do you have any more though?
Do I have any more goalies? No. Oh yeah, no. I do. Okay. But I think you might hit one.
Well, so for goalies, I mean, the Cat is.
Oh yeah.
Is Felix the Cat is just, that's fantastic. Yeah. And like, it's not me being with my East Coast team being the Rangers, but King Henrik.
Oh,
just King. I mean, that, everyone, the NBA has their King James, but King Henry is the king. So King Henrik I thought that was just a perfect name. And it's just one of the, like, you don't call LeBron James King James, you know what I mean? Like, you would call Henrik Lundqvist King as just calling him Henrik. It's just an extension of his name. So you just say, when you talk about him, you just use King, and you can interchange King and Henrik. And that's a true nickname, is when it just flows off the tongue, and it's just either one is acceptable.
And don't worry, YouTubers, you can backspace your comment. I got it.
Okay.
Best goalie nickname, Cujo, Curtis Joseph.
Cujo is one of the best nicknames in all of sports, without a doubt.
I had to. That was my last goalie, and he had to go. My next one after that, Boom Boom Jeffrey on.
Yeah, that's.
It's.
I think I wouldn't want to be called that though.
Oh man, Boom Boom Jeffrey on, like that's. It's like Bam Bam Cam Neely.
Yeah,
it's just like that, and that name just flows like Big Bird Larry. Like it's one of those nicknames that when you hear Jeffrey on, you just automatically throw on the Boom Boom Jeffrey on.
Yeah, I get it. Another one, like another one, where you just call him by the nickname, Rocket Richard.
Funny you mentioned that.
You just call him Rocket. Yeah,
I have Pocket Rocket.
Rocket.
Andre Richard, his little brother.
Yes, the other Richard. Yeah, but you just call them by their nicknames, and it takes over their family born given name. That's a true nickname. And even the Rocket Richard, it's called the Rocket Richard Award. It's crazy.
And
it's a good one.
If for an honorable mention, go Brent Gretzky, the other one. That's one of the all-timers.
Poor him. But hey, I wouldn't mind being Wayne Gretzky's brother and still having a nickname.
Yeah, be Why the not? Other one.
I didn't put Gretzky. Go ahead.
No. Just that one, and my recent-ish nickname that kind of goes with that, Jumbo Joe Thornton in San Jose, and Little Joe Pavelski.
Little Joe. But Jumbo is a great one. Yeah, I really like that one. One of my favorites, man. And I wasn't like, this guy wasn't like a favorite player of mine. I mean, I respected the heck out of him because he's one of the all-time greatest players. But Mario Lemieux.
Super Mario.
Yeah. And when you're a kid and you're into Nintendo, like I was alive when Nintendo was originated.
Yeah.
And all you did was play Mario Brothers. And then you had a guy named Super Mario. Like, yeah, dude, that fits.
Yeah, and like an all-timer name as well, Mr. Hockey Gordie Howe.
Mr. Hockey's a good one. I mean, the great one is, I would say, if you're ranking nicknames, I would put the great one, and I'm one of the biggest Gretzky fans. But if you're called Mr. Hockey,
yeah,
like if you are named after the sport itself with Mr. there, that might be the top nickname that you could bestow upon anybody, if you ask me.
And he had a career that just lasted NHL, like he hit all the leagues. Played long enough to play with his kids.
Yeah.
And
produced.
I was about to say, and he was a viable option at his older age. Like, he is hockey. Yep. He is Mr. Hockey.
I'm trying to. There was another one. Dave Cementhead Semenko.
Oh, it's Semenko. Yeah.
Fantastic nickname. Fantastic nickname.
What a bully he was.
I didn't know this. He was a first liner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't get those guys, the enforcer types on your first line, but crazy. Subtext, who we got here? McKinnon 29. He likes the choo-choo train for Val.
Yeah, it's a great name.
It's a great nickname.
If we can just get it off the siding and get it back on the tracks, we'll be all right.
Tanya says, bias or no bias, Moose is still my favorite. And that fits. You know what I mean? That's a perfect one for him.
Joe, Mr. Clutch Sakic.
Yes, that's a good one. Yep. Vargar, Stu Grimson was a Grim Reaper.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic. Derek Bogard, the Boogeyman, and Matthew Tkachuk, the Rat King.
Yeah.
I can't. The Tkachuks bother me.
I didn't put Brad Marchand on this list because he's got like 2 or 3, and I will not give him any credit.
And then Kyle, he's with you, says Cujo. Cujo's
All
just
time.
it's too good. And Katie says she's fond of Sid the Kid.
It's great.
It is. It fits. It fits. I think it's one of those things where, like, early in his career, like you couldn't stand him because he's so good. And then now that he's in the twilight of his career, you just respect him a little bit more. So I'm okay.
Exactly.
I'm okay with the nickname now. Early in his career, I'm like, don't say that. Don't give him any more credit than he needs.
Yeah,
that's a good nickname.
It felt like the Bedard anointing him before anything happened with Sid the Kid, and you were just like, "Oh, I'm so sick of that nickname." And now you just do it out of respect because you're like,
right.
He is the Kid. He's legitimate.
Exactly. So, anybody else has, feel free to throw them up in the comments section. I'm sure there's a favorite that everyone has, or some unearthed ones that we haven't heard in a while. Please feel free to bring those up as well. Oh, the Hamburglar too. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Got to go with the Hamburglar.
Got himself a deal out of that one too.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right, that is going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back on Friday. We're going to be doing a crossover with the one and only Adam Denker, and you might not like the reason why. So you have to tune in to find that out. All right, it's going to wrap it up for today. For Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I'm Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we'll see you guys on Friday.